Welcome to the Excitant Fiber capital raise session, where we discussed Excitant Fiber's potential with investors and executives to help better understand its opportunities.
All right, everybody. We got more people joining, but it's been 5 minutes already, so we're going to get started here. And John's going to leave an intro in it and go from there. But we'll do some Q&A here once we get through some of this. Everybody have plenty of time to ask questions and go through some of the actual details of this. But John Dessa, Woodrock Capital, is going to do a little introduction here. John, over to you, man.
Hi, good afternoon, folks. My name is John Dennis. I'm the managing partner of Woodrock & Company. We're a boutique investment banking firm here in Houston. I know some of you, as it turns out, from past work. And I'm just a huge fan of Justin and Cody, and I'm delighted to be trying to help them put this together. Woodrock has helped them build the projection models, the executive summary that you've seen in the past that I believe has already been distributed. And Woodrock is standing by to help on debt structures as the company builds cash flow and can take on board some institutional debt. In simplest terms, since this is a de novo business, the fundamental decision that you're making is your comfort with Cody Landrum, and Justin, of course, as the two principal and senior officers of the business. And so really what I thought we might do today is start with Cody to kind of walk through the business model, walk through his background and the business model, and why he would like to do this again, and candidly speak to the current market conditions and why they are opportunistic and attractive. Justin, as you all know, and probably each know personally, Justin's really on the accounting, finance, and sort of ops side of the equation. And then collectively, we'd like to answer any questions you have. We will be sending an updated executive summary, and we're going to be able to speak to some of the projection model questions that have come up in previous conversations in the Q&A, which will be maybe the 3/4 of our time together today. So with that, Cody, can I ask you to sort of tell your story and how you got to how you want to get back into this business?
Certainly. Good morning, everybody. My name is Cody Landrum. And in 2015, I worked in oil and gas supply chain for a local Houston company, global company, and needed to fix my internet. I had moved to Crystal Beach, Southeast Texas, and ended up not just fixing my internet, but about 4,000 other people's. In 2015, decided to cash out my 401k, not knowing much about business at all at that time, and completely cash flowed, starting up an ISP. And we started small, quickly grew just out of control. We started with microwave internet, or fixed wireless is the new term in the news today, and grew at about 700 to 800 customers a year, flirting with bankruptcy the whole time, just because I didn't know anything about banking, lending, raising money. Had to watch our, every penny every day. And in 2018, had enough money to get into the fiber business, realized that is exactly where the future lied. It solidifies your business, and ended up with 3 neighborhoods in Southeast Texas that were south of Beaumont, Texas. And then just before COVID, I had a offer to purchase my business, and decided to exit, and the deal closed in 2022 completely. And past that, Justin and I know each other from family by marriage, and we started discussing this, and his eyes lit up when I was explaining to him the multiples that we sold for, and just how much business is still out there, how much of Texas is still underserved, and other states for that matter, but Texas being so populous. And the fact is wanting to do this again, and I'm going to call it the right way. And there are millions of people in Texas that still do not have access to broadband. Everybody off of the interstate, just for the sake of a simple explanation, cannot, there's many of those people that can't have this Zoom call and we take this for granted on this phone call. And so that is the business model, is to go into these smaller towns that are on the state highways, farm to market roads, and bring them this kind of connectivity. That's something that someone in Houston or Dallas or Beaumont or Austin just has by nature. And the forgotten part is everyone assumes they've got it because the cities have had it for so long.
Specifically, Cody, the current market conditions, the Verizons of the world, they're focusing on the dense urban centers, and they're not spending their money and their dollars to connect the suburban and secondary suburb neighborhoods.
That's correct. Their business model is just that. Whenever cellular was coming out, if you remember, you could only have it in the city. And then it started to get out in a little down the highways because that's where the people travel. And then it started interstates, highways. And then digital came out. They went back to the city and they started over and they upgraded all the infrastructure. And then they were able to get out a little bit further than the highways. And then 3G came about and then they went back to the cities. And that is where, as you said earlier, that is exactly where the density is, and that allows them to tap the most people, which is how everyone else is forgotten.
Justin, can you give your background to the folks, make sure everyone knows it?
Everybody here knows me, but my primary business, I've been in business for myself the last 26 years. Most has been in private aviation, but I've also helped turn around FedEx companies, driving companies in Columbus, Ohio, real estate, commercial construction. I've done a vast number of different businesses here. So, obviously how me and Cody met was by family, but, over the last 2 years, we have been working on this last year, take months, been working heavily with John Dennis and Woodrock. And so in this time period, I've spent a tremendous amount of time with Cody, as we all know, learning about this business, understanding it, doing my due diligence with it, seeing the financials, visiting conferences, meeting people in the business. And this is, everybody knows here, is the biggest thing I've ever seen and touched. It's just, I talked to some people last week that are in the government side of it that have actually said, in a stance, you've got to be stupid not to for this to be successful. Okay. You tapped into something huge. There's no technology out there to replace what fiber does. There is no satellite, there's no Starlink, there's nothing out there that can do what it does with the speeds, the reliability, the dependability out there. And it is a tremendous play. And in Texas, it's unregulated, so it's a very easy market to get into. Grab the low-hanging fruit that's out there that the big boys are not taking on. So I can obviously, y'all all know this, I can talk forever about this, but I don't want to waste your time on what you've already heard about. The goal is that you meet Cody, you understand the business model, understand what we're doing. We talk about our projections and what we're planning to do, which is, as you all know, go into East Texas initially and then move southeast. We're originally going to family offices and equity groups to look at this. They wanted too much. And we're going to our network, to facilitate this so that we can get started and make everybody that's investing, more money, basically. So, and with that, we can talk about the projection. We're doing $6 million. So our goal today is to raise $6 million in round one, and then another 6 to 8 months, raise an additional $6 million, and which will allow us to be fully sustainable and not need to bring in any further equity going forward here, and provide a good return for investors. And John, do you want to speak to some of that a little bit on your side, or do you want to speak to it?
I'm happy to.
Okay.
Fundamentally, $6 million gets this business to drill out. It hires the crews that actually drill out the fiber optic lines. It gets them going past houses. Then there is a follow-up sales effort, which is to take the connection that's in the right of way between the sidewalk and the street to the house. There is an assumption that the $6 million allows the business to start up, that it actually drills out approximately 7,000 pass-bys, and that in the course of about 18 months, half of those will actually be connected. In simple terms, if no additional money was raised, you would turn off the drilling side of the business, and you would just keep accumulating people that would be joining and connecting, and they're $75 a month.
Right.
And in terms of capital repayment, in that scenario, that arguably down case scenario, the business will generate positive free cash in the second and third years that it's equivalent to the capital that was raised.
And going to that on John, so I want to speak to the numbers a little bit. You know, versus $6 million, we'll be able to drill almost 8,000 homes, which with a 65 or 75% take rate, you know, we'll get to 5,000 subscribers, which will get us cash flow positive in year 2. And then in years 2 to 3, if we worst case situation, we didn't raise round 2, as John already stated, we would cut back drilling, cut back operations, cash flow the business, and be able to start paying back the initial investment in 2 to 3 years. Just a repeat of what you already said in a sense, okay?
Yeah.
If we go forward with our current plan and we raise round 1 and the round 2, we would be sustainable by ourselves with no more capital infusions needed unless we decide to go faster and wanted to go faster. And in 9 years or less, we'd be at $50 million of revenue in Los Manos with over 50,000 subscribers. And with $12 million raised, we can do 100,000 home passes in simple terms, which is 65,000 customers on an initial take rate of 65%, which has been Cody's standard, which has also been the standard of everybody that I've spoken to at the conventions that are doing this on a smaller scale with their own cash flow. It's a very simple wash, rinse, repeat type business model. You put on initial people when you get through the home, through the areas, and you organically grow as you're in there when people take on the technology slower. And we can talk about it all day. It's very simple, you know. But on that note, you know, John, did you have anything more to speak to the financials side of it?
Simply the business, when you do the 2 capital raises, the business starts generating enough cash flow to be self-sustainable for its continued growth, and also starts to be available, make itself available for debt financing.
Right.
So from when would you ever get your capital back? I think it's 2 steps. If in the cash flow generating, you've raised the 2 rounds, I think there's the ability for distributions that ultimately would equal your capital in years 4 and 5, because you want to keep as much capital in to continue to grow the business and build your base of connected customers. Somewhere in there will be the ability to actually borrow capital from banks, borrow debt from banks, and do what are called debt refinancings or debt recaps, which will allow the company to start repaying the investors. Either if they've already paid back the capital, their original capital, then it would be distributions on top of that. The ultimate sale of the business is where the exit multiple and multiples of your total value, of your total investment, would be returned. The dynamics of the industry are that the majors are looking for developed packages of customers in these communities rather than wanting to do it themselves. So there is a scale to this business that allows Cody and Justin to sell off pieces of their business or the entire company, ultimately to one of the majors. And these, what would be arguably called secondary markets today, are going to be ultimately what the Verizons and the AT&Ts of the world want to own and control as well. And once you've built out the primary network for that area, it's very hard for someone to come in and kind of offset the incumbent, unless the incumbent is doing a terrible job and providing terrible service.
And, you know, just to add to that before we go to one more segment here is, me and John spoke, Cody spoke, but I think everybody on the call spoke about it. I want to mention it again, just so on the same page. A company named Tacus Group came in to Houston 7 or 8 years ago and stated that they were going to own anything that touched the outside of Houston. They raised their initial capital, let's call it $10 million, from the Brock family in Los Manos, across Timmer's family office here. They got cash flowing, and to break even, they went to Hancock and Whitney, which we've already spoke to senior reps over there, and they basically 4-to-1 the money. As of a couple of weeks ago, when I looked at the last what they were showing, they're showing 40,000 subscribers per month. which averages, I think, $3.3 or $3.6 million in gross revenue per month. Their CapEx expenses paid off in 3 to 5 years. And so the margins go to what is probably likely 80%, 79, 80% for them once they pay the CapEx off. This is a huge cash flowing business. It is basically utility. It is difficult but simple. But go ahead.
They do a good job. They basically created a donut around Houston, and they're just waiting for at some point one of the majors to come to them and say, we'd like that next ring of Houston, Texas.
Right.
And they're going to be the player, the best, logical, cleanest, audited financials, cleanest player available. It's a brilliant play, and it's gone very well for them.
Our strategy is simple, similar but not the same. It's starting Northeast Texas and the near Tyler and Chandler, Athens area, and move to the Southeast and start in the Southeast and Beaumont in 2025 and work towards each other. There are tons of other markets in Texas to go, to take on, but that's our initial strategy. And there's a lot of growth in that area. Okay. So it is just a tremendous opportunity to be involved in here. To that point here, I've got a gentleman here that's a long-term friend and customer on, Mr. Tim Howard, who is verbally committed to this. I've known Tim for a long time. He's out in Santa Ana, Newport, California, and he is verbally committed to investing in it. And Tim, I'd like for you to speak about, why you are decided to be involved in this and what's driven you to it, so that individuals on the call can understand what your decision-making process was. Because we've other individuals that committed, but they couldn't be on the day. But Tim, you are here, so I wanted to have you, have a few minutes if it's okay.
Sure. My microphone should be on, Justin.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. So my business here in Southern California is I'm a industrial real estate developer, and the industrial side of the business, the large warehouse business, is occurring in areas that are less developed, and consequently, I find myself being tasked with installing infrastructure. And so over the last decade and a half, my company has spent close to $500 million just putting in infrastructure around the buildings that we build. When Justin approached me with this idea, it seems like one of those things that, because in Texas it's not regulated and you can get to the market more quickly and hence get to the cash flow. That's what was intriguing to me, because every time I build something, it takes 4 years to get the permits to do it here in California. So there's huge barriers to entry. For Justin, there are fewer barriers of entry, and then the scale is so much smaller that we can be efficient with $6 million. I think that investment is manageable for individuals and the friends and family type of raises. So I told Justin that based on some experience that I have with other people and my own of building infrastructure, that this just seemed like a no-brainer to me. So I've committed to Justin to make this investment, and from what I understand of it and what I've been exposed to, this seems like something that I'm going to move on to get in at the beginning. So I wish you well, and I'm committed to it. I've seen Justin's work ethic. I'm also a customer of his in the airplane business, and I know how he operates things. So I'm pleased to move forward on this with him.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for support. And Tim, I think everybody here is pretty, low key on this on the call today. So a lot of people couldn't be here. They want us to record this video and send it to them. Had a lot of pre-calls through the week here. But Tim, you had told me, that you had a friend of yours that had been in this business for a long time that stuffed a lot better than you. I'd like you to add that fun.
Okay. So this is the kind of group that can take this. I have a dear pal whose father was the developer of a town out here in Southern California called Placentia. It was a land grant property from Mexico that they had. His dad let him be the franchise provider for the cable company. And so I graduated from college 40 years ago almost. And Paul, my friend, graduated 40 years ago. Paul looks about 20 years younger than I do, owns 2 golf courses, and sits around and plans his vacations around the world. So, using my keen sense for the obvious, I said, this sounds like a pretty good deal. So that's what intrigued me, because I know that Paul had done the same kind of thing that Justin's talking about doing. And if he can get the scale right, this thing is just a slot machine. So that was the anecdote that I told Justin about. So
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. And that'll add color to people we send it out to for sure. John, did you want to add anything before we kind of open up for questions here? Because
Happy, I understand that folks have all got the original deck.
we've seen,
And we'd very much like to take any questions you might have, and try to work through them. Whether they're related specific to the executive summary or the Series A projection case. We do have that available to bring up if you want to speak to annual numbers. But what questions might we ask? What questions might you ask, and how may we help?
and for sort of questions, our goal is to finalize this in the coming weeks and start August time period, which would put us August 1 here. We have, again, just to reiterate this is something my back office with Cody, with Rock, have been working on for the last year, from systems, process, technology, designing the first drill site, to walking it, to talking to people in those areas. And this is not something that was put together or thought about 30 days ago or 40, 60 days ago. We have somebody that's operated, done it well, with a startup of $180,000, cash flowed it well, with no financing, no debt, and was able to be wildly successful with it. We're talking about coming on with something he didn't have before, which is infrastructure, capital, and the know-how, and experienced people that have also scaled businesses bigger than this as well. Okay, so now open up the Q&A if whoever has questions on any of the financial numbers or strategy or just overall generals. If you're not comfortable doing it in the group, we can also do it in a one-on-one environment to go through this as well. But anybody got questions?
hey, Justin, can I ask one question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is the size of the book of business that we think is palatable to the larger operators? And are those deals being done currently? Are there any comparable transactions that we could look to see, okay, we need 10,000 subscribers, or we need 20,000, or what? How do we know what the size we need to get to is to exit?
Yeah, for the X is what you're talking about, Tim, or just for the correct?
Yeah, for the exit.
Yeah. Cody, you want to speak to that on your side of it?
Yeah, sure. It is, I think how to put this. It is anything above about 10,000 subscribers, but is right for their taking. But more so, it's contiguous. They don't want something that's out in an island surrounded by another company, and they don't have any way to service it efficiently. So by us moving from town to town to town, we give them that continuity, and then easily the subscriber numbers that they need. So if it's AT&T and we're coming out of Beaumont, AT&T owns the Beaumont market. So if we surround Beaumont, Crystal Beach, Galveston even, and I'm making these up as I go right now, that gives them a line with their current service provider, their current ability to service and provide with their customers within their footprint, or at least bordering their footprint. So that's what helps the most.
Yeah, and on that note, with our strategy of going from the Tyler area from the northeast to the southeast, it also comes close to, Tyler's a big area. It is also touching the outside of Houston as well, which is connectivity, as Cody was saying here, bringing that service area together. So does that answer your question, Tim?
Yeah, just one other one for Cody. Who's around Tyler? Is it AT&T or who is it?
They just changed names. It used to be Suddenlink, and now it's a German company, and I never can remember their name. But they have a huge office out of Tyler.
Okay.
Yep. Who has the next question? Joe, Alan, Brady, anyone? Gary? Great. Go ahead. I have a question here. By the way, we have Steve Crow joining in the office today. Steve, go ahead.
So I guess I look at the market from a consumer,
Yeah, sure.
and I'm in the middle. I don't know how everybody else is, but I've got cable. I've been wanting to cut that cable for a long time,
Right.
but I haven't been able. I'm an engineer, and I've got to have everything lined up. So I haven't figured out what I want to do.
Right.
So Takis came into the neighborhood, and they had flyers,
Right.
and they did it. I think they did it for like 6 months.
Right.
So it's a two-part question. So the one thing I was thinking is, because everything's a risk, right? I think what they did was they came in and gave flyers out and kind of got a feel for who was going to sign up.
Right.
I think if they would have given me a sweet deal, I probably would have signed up, and I would have, right?
And I'll answer that question right now. The strategy when we go out to a new area is that we will have banners on the trucks, banners in the areas saying Excitant Fiber is in your area. If you sign on, for the initial 60, 90 days, there will be no install costs, so you'll waive $200. Okay, so that was how we do that. Cody, go ahead.
So real quick, I wanted to jump in.
Yeah.
On just to answer some of that Takis and how they approached it. The flyers they sent out were to lock in for a certain price, all taxes and fees included. I mean, obviously here in Conroe, we did that and jumped on. So when they did the flyers, they also started with talk to your neighbor, like you talk to your neighbor program, and you get a discount there as well. So it was definitely a door knocker.
I kept waiting for something, but I never saw anything. It was
Right.
It was like, it's $75, sign up now, it's $75, and this is it. And I thought, okay, I'll wait. And I got a ton of, I should have kept them. I got probably a stack this high, but it never changed. So I was like, okay, well then, and then my other thought so I'm looking for something. And so I was thinking, okay, I'll go to Verizon and find out if Verizon, so that, you go in there and it's all 5G. So how have you guys looked at that, and how is that?
Yeah. I can speak to it, Cody, but I'll let you speak to it because this is your, better than I, but on the 5G side of it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of buzz around 5G, but that's due to marketing. It's good, but so if you were to get on a cell tower with 5G, they have the home product throttled. It is not as quick as your phone. So you can take and just really quickly, you could speed test a phone and you may get a gigabit on your phone. If you do that on your home internet, they have that limited to 100, 120 megabits because the consumption at your home is considerably more than what you use on your phone. Secondly, fiber is what feeds 5G. That's the only means of technology that can feed a 5G radio to give it those speeds. So you're actually cutting out the middleman here and bringing fiber straight to your home, which is the pinnacle of communication technology.
And Cody, speak to that point of, everybody doesn't maybe not understand 120 megabits to 1 gig. So what we're providing compared to what 5G would provide in those type of services, and what price,
so cable. Yeah, 5G cable in rural communities is going to be able to give you 100 megabits at its best, whereas we're going to come in and offer 25 times that as our base rate, upload and download. So it's a symmetrical service, which means, and right now 5G gives you far more download than upload, which is why you can receive something quicker than you can send it. Cable is the same way based on the way cable works, because the old cable plants have been hotwired basically to run internet. They were never meant to run internet. They were built to run video back whenever you had a box on top of your TV, and they have they have bastardized per se the format in which they deliver over to make the internet plausible on it. And so it works. It's just, it was never built from inception for communication like fiber was, because fiber has always been 100% data driven, and it has been built specifically for that. And so it just gets better and better and better all the time, because you cannot beat the speed of light. And that is how fast that the data transmits.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll lead into a few questions so Cody can give a little more input for everybody. Steve, you brother? I'm gonna get it. Cody, speak to, what was it here? Is there gonna be any, what was I gonna say here? Speak to the fact of the latency and reliability, or speak to Starlink and how that compares as well, or a satellite service, so you can understand that too. So I can understand that may not understand it completely. Okay.
Sure. Starlink is another buzz right now, and it's actually, it's quite a good product if you have nothing. If you live on or if you have a hunting ranch in West Texas, or you're in the middle of the ocean, it's an absolute miracle. And Elon Musk was quoted as saying, if you live in a city or in a town or somewhere where there's a lot of people, do not buy this service, because satellites are terrible at high density areas. And high density for a satellite is a few hundred people, because everybody's got to share it. But when you have one home every 5 miles, then it works great and you get good speeds. But when, for example, where one of my homes is Crystal Beach, a lot of the people after I sold my company have bailed on the company that bought me, and they have gone to Starlink. And now what we're seeing on the Facebook pages is people complaining that their Starlink is slow. And what's happened is too many people have gotten on Starlink. So in that particular area, and I know that was long-winded, but it's people are, when you use the wrong product in the wrong way, it's going to fail, or it's going to start slowing down and lagging. No different if you've ever been at a concert or a sporting event a few years ago before 5G came out, and your phone didn't work when you were at the baseball game, or your phone or any other crowded event. It's the same principle. And with fiber, because of what is called the huge pipe that we bring to every single home, you don't experience that.
Because we hear, I've ran into a lot of people over the last 3 months talking about, is fiber going to be replaced? What is 5G, as you said earlier? What is Starlink? I'm betting on these things. And, there is no technology from the conventions. I have taken what Cody's given me. I spent the last year, which I work all the time, understanding this, doing my due diligence with it, so I can speak about it, so I can make sure this is the best because I'm bringing to my network, my people that trust me with this. And there is nothing out there even close to it. The only thing that's being developed is better fiber. Everything that feeds 5G is fiber. Starlink and any satellite cannot compete with it, and they have to put 5,000 satellites in the air just to do what they're doing. They don't have all of them up there right now, and they drop out every, I think, Cody, correct me, I think it's every 12 or 24 months, depending on what their actual where the altitude is at, give or take. And so they got to put more up there. And so it's always something that's being changed and modified. But I wanted to, Cody, if you have anything to say on that, otherwise I'm opening up for more questions.
No, you're good.
Okay. Any other questions, anyone? I just want to give a little more color. Somebody that may have not seen this already. John, anything to add to it?
No, I don't know what folks want to understand.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to get some ideas.
Well, I think we covered it all. If nobody has any other questions, we will sign off at this point, and then we'll reach out to the people that are here, the people that couldn't make it, with the videos along with follow-up meetings to go through more financial projections.
We can do a couple follow-ups.
Okay.
By Monday, by email, we will send you all an updated executive summary with details around just the Series A. We have a proposed set of terms that we'd like to share with you, and to help sort of round up the Series A $6 million. And we would be very welcome to speak with you privately, one-on-one, and walk you through any questions you might have of the business model, the projections, in whatever detail you would like. Grateful for your time and look forward to speaking with each of you. Alan, it's been a long time since I've seen you. I hope you're well.
Everybody, thank you, Tim, Gary, everybody here. And I know there's a lot of other people that are gonna make it, that didn't make it. So thank y'all. Take care. God bless.
Thanks, guys. All
All
right.
right, thank
God
you.
bless. Happy 4th of July. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Excitant Fiber Capital Raise session. We appreciate your interest and time. If you have any questions or would like to learn more, reach out